Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hi there. Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce my guest. I'm delighted to have her. Her name is Jennifer Westcott. Jennifer is a therapist, artist, mother, wife, and friend. She is devoted and passionate in making therapists the best they can be, the most supported and human and kind to themselves. The reason Jennifer believes so strongly about this is because of her own journey through healing and encountering both great and awful therapy in her past. I love that because I say that to clients all the time. Like, if I'm full and I refer them out, it's like, if you get someone terrible, just keep trying. Don't give up. There's more good people out there.
Yes.
So I cracked up when I read that, Jennifer. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Karen. I'm really glad to be here with you.
I'm so glad to have you. How long have you been a therapist?
25 years this year.
Me too.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I started I finished my program in 1999, and I had been counseling a little bit before that, but just very sort of beginning stages. Yeah. And during that time, I've been in all kinds of settings. I was in nonprofit world, and then I moved into government, mental health work, and I have a private practice with just adults that I've had since 2009. So I right now work full-time in the government and part-time in private practice. And in both of those, I do a lot of supervision of therapists.
Beautiful. Yeah, we have quite a bit in common. Except I suspect that you are way better at creativity based on so those of you watching on YouTube, you can see how her beautiful art in the background, her crafting area, her studio.
Yeah.
So sorry for you that are just listening today. Can't see the beauty. But you can check out her website and such. Jennifer, how did you get involved with art as part of your practice, or were you always doing both?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't know how to incorporate it in the beginning. So I was always very artsy growing up. I didn't think of myself as an artist. I like to turn one thing into something else. That's what I say is the best definition of art. Just take something and make it into something else, whether it's by coloring it or whatever. So I'd always, liked making homemade presents for Christmas for people and turning photographs into different things. And I don't know if that's me dinging. Sorry. And then when I went to university, my undergrad degree was in recreation therapy. I didn't really know what that meant, and I didn't really know what I was doing or why I was in that. And I quickly got out of that field just because I couldn't find the work that was resonating with me. So I went back to school. But what I've realized over the years is how much that training prepared me for being able to invite people into a flow state, mostly through art, because that's what I love, that lends itself well to healing. So it was kind of this sort of love affair with art, and then adding in a degree in basically how to use flow state for healing. And then I did quite a bit of art therapy courses and trainings over the years. And as I've risked and been courageous enough to just try different things, it's become more and more a typical part of what I do. I started an art group for women about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's probably one of my favorite things to do. So we spend a Saturday afternoon doing art therapy together.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Now, I know the benefits of art therapy from my colleagues, and I've also taken a couple of courses myself, and I've been a patient or client in some as well. And I believe that they're deeply healing. Now, what about your life? Did you have any early traumas that your work or doing art has helped heal you?
Yeah, and I would say still does. The pictures up on the wall up there are my journals. I'm a journalaholic, really. I journal every day, and a lot of times the only way I could capture and heal what was going on inside me from my childhood was collage. So I got in love with collage and its grown-up sister, I like to call it mosaic. And collage became this way. I went to this training as a therapist, and it was a training on somatic work. And the woman who was doing the training said back to me, collage for you sounds like it's taking all these fragments from your trauma and putting them together on one page. And that's you putting yourself together. And so, yeah, my early life, I was sexually abused by my mother. And that's something that I stayed in deep denial and amnesia about until I was 36 and had a daughter. And it all came flooding back. I'm saying it so calmly right now, but I was an absolute wreck. Developed PTSD from that point forward. And art has always been the thing that calms me down, like the thing I can go to at home on the couch when I'm not in therapy and I'm not in a support group and I'm not able to get to, like, art is like the thing that will soothe my nervous system and help me weave myself back together.
Yeah, well, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. I especially appreciate the share because there's this myth that abuse is done by men only. Like we hear of mothers that will hit or yell or whatever. But I've worked with lots of people that have been sexually abused by other women or their moms.
Wow.
So I think it's more common.
I think it's way more common than people think. And you're right. We're all kind of seduced by the mother myth that mothers are nurturing and caring, and interestingly, my mom was those things too at times. So it's kind of
just more confusing and more complicated.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I went through years of thinking, I must be making this up. I must be crazy. I must be fill in the blank. Something's wrong with me that I would think that my mother would ever do these things. And yet it is what happened. And yeah, you're up against not just trying to heal from abuse, but I was kind of up against this narrative in our culture that women don't do those kind of things. And, I had all these bizarre ways that I ended up unconsciously coping with that. And one of them was I came to hate feminists. I hate to say it, but there was this job I had when I was first a therapist, and I worked with children who had been sexually abused. That was my whole job. I'm upstairs in this building doing this job, seeing these kids. Downstairs are the women's violence counselors, who are a very feminist-based program, seeing these poor women who have been tortured and violated and all these things. And what I couldn't reconcile with these counselors was the fact that a lot of the kids that I was seeing had mothers in that program. And I'm hearing stories of mothers that were quite not kind to these kids, abusive. And we would get in these sort of debates about who's the victim and who's the perpetrator. And they were very difficult conversations, because I think human nature is we don't want to have to hold two opposing thoughts at the same time.
Exactly. And you can be a victim and a perpetrator. You don't have to be, of course.
Yeah. And I struggle with that too. with my mom. My mom was kind and wonderful and loving and good at certain things, and she hurt me and sexually abused me and denied my truth, and all of that was true at the same time. And I think it just stretches the brain and the psyche into a place that is so painful. For years, I just wanted to drink and forget about it, and I did. So it was, getting into sobriety that required me to grapple with that level of debate. Debate is a very sanitized way to say it, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember feeling a little bit like that as an intern. I worked with the younger kids while the parents were getting, or the mothers were getting parenting classes. And so the counselors working with the parents had all this empathy, right? Because they saw their struggle and the abuse and traumas they went through. And I'm working with the kids who have very dirty clothes on, who have crusted boogers on their face,
right,
and has orange soda in their bottle. And, and I'm having judgment.
Absolutely. I don't know if you watched Seinfeld, but I always remember this episode of Seinfeld where Jerry was saying, depending on what the documentary is about is who you're going to cheer for. And I often say this to therapists who are new. If the documentary is about the antelope, you're going to cheer for the antelope to outrun the cougar. But if the documentary is about the cougar, you want the cougar to get the antelope. And that often happens with therapists and in therapy. It's wherever we are designed to align, we don't want to see the rest of it.
Yeah.
And yet, if we're going to be real good at what we do, we have to be able to hold it all, and often within the same person.
Yes, it's such a challenge. I remember one time I was working with a pedophile who I didn't know was a pedophile. And I just thought he was the bee's knees until he told me. And it was so confusing trying to reconcile what I thought I knew in his behavior. Oh, that was quite the challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always said, you get dark humor about your own trauma at times. And I've always said, pedophiles are really good with children. they tend to be really good with children. That's part of
know. That's what they talk about.
Shocked. When people are kind of shocked and horrified that someone kind that they knew, something comes out that they were abusive. Yeah, that's my response. We want it to be this creep down the back alley who's a stranger to everybody and is just all pathology. But that's not the truth.
That is not the truth.
No.
And it's often somebody in our family. It's not the stranger.
That's right.
It's more common in our families. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes. I do like that. I would rather go to the basement right away than stay on the ground floor.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of power in that. One, it's very, for the person listening that's suffering and not healed yet, it's very validating to know, like, oh my gosh, wow, like, of course she drank. Of course, that's why I had my alcohol problem, like people listening. And it's not always alcohol, right? It can be anything. It can be pornography. It can be sex. It can be drugs, prescription drugs, food. Food is a common one. Overspending, gambling, like these behaviors, these risky behaviors generally are because the person is a trauma survivor. Sometimes they know and sometimes they're in denial.
Last night I was out at a treatment center that is nearby where I live, and sometimes they bring people from town who are in recovery to speak at the Friday night kind of evening they have out there. And I was talking about my story, and I said that. I said, I drank because it worked. It gave me something I could not get any other way. We don't do it because we're just assholes. We don't do it because we're choosing, this is a very common line I hear, we're choosing alcohol over our children, or because we're making bad choices, like it's some just simple cognitive process. We typically have deep-seated trauma that we're just trying to survive day to day. And until we come up with a better way, why wouldn't we do the thing that works? And what shocked me after I was done speaking, because I talked about sexual abuse and my mom and all kinds of torturous feelings about that, and it was the man actually who came to me after and said, I was hurt by my mom, or I was hurt by this other person, and I've never talked about it, and I haven't even said it here yet. And they were crying, and I said, you got to say it, because if you don't get this stuff out and start like shining a light on it, it's going to be real hard to stay sober.
Really good. Yeah. Yeah, it's talking. It's the same process with grief. Trauma is in grief for kissing cousins. And so a lot of the strategies work for both. So there's this TAW strategy: talking, art, and writing.
Ooh.
When you do those three things in combination, you're quantum leaping your healing.
Yes. And I've never heard anybody say it that way. It's that processing that needs to happen to weave it together into a blanket instead of a million threads. Like it weaves it together into a story. And often with trauma, I think for myself and people I've seen, you have to do it over and over. We're not like it's not a one-time story we tell and it's done. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I tell my clients, like when it feels like when they feel tortured by my methods, I try to go slow and be compassionate with it. One of the things I remind them, though, is that exposure piece of sharing your story and writing your story and doing creative projects around your story. When you're doing these things, you're bringing down your emotional intensity. So the more you do it, the less intense your emotions are around it. And then you can see that you can survive that emotion without turning to a risky behavior.
Yes.
We don't believe we're going to survive it. It just feels so painful.
Oh,
but we can.
Yeah.
It does.
What do they say about trauma? It's when the intolerable becomes interminable in our minds, that we just think if this feeling that's horrible is never going to end, I'm not going to go back in the burning house to save myself, because that's the only way to do it. I don't ever want to feel it ever again. And that shuts down that healing journey. And it makes sense. I guess we have to, who knows why the timing is what it is. I think timing and healing is the thing that comes from the spiritual realm, or the unexplainable realm, why certain things come up at certain times and you're ready when you weren't ready a month ago. Yeah, there's a part of healing. Mind blowing.
The body is very wise. It's good to listen to it,
True.
And I tell my young people that come to therapy, it's like, you may not be ready. If you are, great.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm like, you say that, but are you really, really tired of feeling sick and tired of your symptoms? Because it usually takes a few years later. And sometimes they are, and sometimes they'll come back later.
Yeah.
But okay, now I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else has been healing for you other than doing creative projects?
Well, I would actually say what comes up for me is to just say everything I've tried has given me a little bit of healing, even bad therapy, because it even prepared me for what does not work for me. It got me.
Yeah, great point.
So even the bad experiences where I felt judged or misunderstood, or someone tried to do CBT on my trauma, God forbid, just think different thoughts about it and reframe it in your mind. And that felt so demoralizing and unachievable to me. But it let me know what wouldn't work. So I tried so many types of therapy. I feel like I've done it all, but I probably haven't. So in the early days, I was seeing someone who did primal work and that really intense emoting, swinging a bat, like letting it all out. I did that. I did breath work. Then I, had the traditional people who did through my benefits, I would try that. And they have we have 6 sessions, and I'm like, well, I've been sexually abused for 17 years. I don't know how this is going to go. And so, but they would give me little tidbits, little things. And for the last 4 years, I've actually been in psychoanalysis 2 to 3 times a week at times, and with a psychiatrist. And that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down, because I thought I kind of swore off the medical model realm for quite a long time. And I thought, I'm not going to belong there. I don't want to be sort of pathologized and symptoms treated. And because I'm in the work, I knew what typically psychiatrists focused on. But anyway, then I came across this wonderful psychiatrist who wants to get back to the roots of psychiatry and do therapy. And it's been mind-blowing, like Freudian analysis. I mean, I never thought ever that I would, and I feel kind of like as a therapist, there's this little part of me that's observing, going, wow, this is interesting. I remember I said to her, this was the big difference for me. I'm geeking out now on types of therapy, but I said to her early on, I said, I'm just finding this really hard, because you come on the screen, because we're virtual, and you don't say a single word. You just wait. And she said, the difference between counseling and analysis is counseling tries to alleviate anxiety and help people feel safe. Analysis invokes anxiety to get your material going. And I said, well, I hate it. I feel so anxious when I start these sessions. And then I blurted this out. I said, you remind me of my mother just sitting in her chair doing nothing. And then I said, oh my God, it's working. So it's been quite enlightening when I.
And she still sees you.
Yes. I mean, she's like, exactly. This is what we're here for. You're going to project all your stuff on me, and I'm going to be, this warmer mirror to help you process it. And
oh, wow.
So I guess I'm telling that story because there's been a lot of things I've tried where I've wanted to quit pretty early. And support groups, 12-step world groups for addiction recovery is another one. I thought, I don't belong in this church basement. I'm not like these people. And 16 years later, I'm still, 2-3 times a week. And so don't give up, even if it's crappy or you don't, or it's uncomfortable, or I guess that's what I've learned from sort of opening myself up to all kinds of things. The craziest thing I ever did was holotropic breath work. That holotropic breath work, it was kind of designed by this psychiatrist, I believe, Stanislav Grof, I think is his name, when they took away psychedelics back in the 60s from psychiatrists and said, you can't actually give people LSD. And so he came up with this way to get the same thing happening, but through hyperventilation.
Okay.
And so you go in this dark room with this really loud music and you hyperventilate your way into a trance state and then see what happens, is what the facilitator said. And that was wild. And I've tried anything that was offered to me, I'll try it, because you get that desperate when you've had a life of trauma, right?
Yeah. And what works for someone may not work for us, and vice versa. That's when right. You mentioned CBT, I was trained in CBT pretty early in my career. And when I worked with this one woman now on and off for 25 years. She takes maintenance breaks. She, it's on and off for 25 years. And one of the first things I did with her was to put her in a CBT group that I was leading, because she had such crippling anxiety and depression. And so later, when I learned about somatic work and more evidence-based trauma treatment, I apologized to her and said, I am so sorry I put you in that group. that was to treat the anxiety and depression. That wasn't for trauma. I think I really messed up doing that. And she's like, no, my God, that class was so helpful for me to reframe the way that I think about myself as an individual. She goes, I thought I was complete shit, worthless. So she those countering statements after you take your unhealthy thoughts to the dump is what we say in CBT, and you learn healthier thoughts that you can prove to be true.
Yes.
She really benefited from. I'm like, okay, I guess there's no accidents then. It just happened
Yes, and there's nothing. Like I said, I think everybody can get something out of everything. And yeah, CBT, I poked fun at it there, but it saves my bacon in between sessions because it is very accessible and very easy to kind of apply. Like in the here and now, I am not okay, and I'm going to do a quick list of what if, and then what is. Just those little techniques you learn that see me through, really. So,
yeah. And I love analyzing the way I think. That there's a piece in CBT called utility analysis, where you're asking yourself, is this thought helping me feel better? Or is it making me feel worse? Does this thought help me with building relationships with others? Or is it harming relationships? And then the third question is, does this thought help me work towards achieving my goals? Or is this thought a barrier? Right. And almost always when you have a critical negative thought about yourself, this is not useful.
Not helpful. That's right.
Yeah. And so those questions save my bacon a lot. Okay. There's no use for this thought, so why keep it? Why? Yeah. That helps me quite a bit. Yeah. All right. Are you a published author yet?
No, I'm not.
Is there a plan for that?
I've thought about it. One of the things I've often thought about is somehow publishing my journals and this kind of story of recovery through the art and the writing. Feels risky to do that. I don't know. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
If it feels risky, then that means it's not quite the time.
Yeah, the risk is a bit big still. No, my latest love is I have a business called Therapist Sanctuary. And my belief system around it is that therapists need a place to be human and to be open and vulnerable with other therapists and feel really supported, not just sort of in a heady way where we talk about what interventions we're using, but in a really deep and personal way of where our stuff goes. And so there's a clinical supervision community that is part of that work where therapists join together. And so if anyone's interested in that, it's on my website at holistichealingcounseling.com, and it's all online. And so it's supervision and it's recorded videos that you receive, and then coming together monthly with other therapists to talk about the work.
And can therapists from any state, let's say they're working towards licensure, can you help them from any state, or are you limited to states?
Well, I'm in Canada, and so it's open to anyone in the States or here, as long as you're either have a master's degree or are working towards a master's, and kind of what you need for your own requirements I leave to the person, but it's more a place to sort of debrief. And the videos that people seem to really enjoy are the ones that are about the things that happen in therapy commonly that often therapists need to process, but aren't part of any particular modality per se. So lots of our training, or what we do, is we learn CBT, or we learn DBT, or we learn EMDR, but I felt like there needs to be a place where we get to talk about how do we assimilate all that into who we are as people. So it's more that part. It's who are you uniquely as a therapist? What's your thumbprint of what you offer your clients?
It sounds like beautiful work. Because like we mentioned earlier, a lot of us are survivors.
Yes. And it's a lonely profession, actually. It's behind closed doors. We can't go home and talk about it over supper. We can't, we don't. Do you ever go out for supper or you're with people you love and they're all talking about their day and you kind of clam up because you don't know what you can share? And so you end up sharing nothing. That I've had that experience so much that I thought I need more places.
Maybe when I was younger. Now I have a lot of other interests that can hold conversations. Like I do a lot of travel, I read a lot. The kids are involved in different things.
Yes.
So
that's good too.
I think
it's not all about work.
Yeah, I think I have the opposite problem though, where doing the work, especially if it's intense, if I have a full day of people, I think what tends to happen in my case is I don't want to talk anymore, and I don't want to hear anybody else anymore.
Yeah.
After, so I kind of go into that sometimes, and I'm like, well, this isn't good for friendships, right? Because friendships, you have to both be engaged and talking and also listening well. So
right.
Yeah, my social life has taken a hit over the years.
Right? Like the work affects us so profoundly. And I think it needs a place to be shared and seen and expressed.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful group you have.
Thank you.
The other thing I noticed, I wonder if you noticed this, and again, everybody's different. I noticed that as a younger person and therapist, I would laugh at everything and anything. Like I thought things were funny. And after being a trauma therapist for so long, it's really hard to get me to laugh. Like it has to be over the top funny. Do you relate to that at all?
Yes. And it's kind of like giving me the chills a little. Just losing some of the lightheartedness of life. Like, I don't remember. There was a book I read once and it talked about going on this trip with her family. She was a therapist and I related to it so much. She was going on a trip and they were at this beautiful spot on the top of a mountain and they were looking over and all she could think of was all the people that could jump off there and die by suicide. And it was in that moment she kind of realized the impact of working with trauma for year after year after year. Like you kind of see the world differently. And I have too. Yeah, I relate to that a lot. And the flip side of it is, and I need laughter so much more than I ever did.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do.
Yeah.
So I try to be mindful of that, and I love it when I find a show that's truly funny to me, or a comedian that's really funny. It's a nice surprise or if I find a book that makes me chuckle, I'm like, oh, this is so, I can still laugh. Yay.
Yes. We're still in there. We're still whole human beings in there.
Yeah. So I think we should probably wrap up. I know we could talk about days about the different topics that we help people in therapy with, or even just your art, creativity. Let's end by just kind of recapping what your website is, recapping on the programs that you have to offer people right now.
Okay, so my website is Holistic Healing Counseling, counseling with 2 L's.com. And my program that's available for therapists is Therapist Sanctuary, and it's on that website. I also have a free giveaway for therapists, and you can find it by going to www.therapistsanctuary.com. And it's called Between Sessions. And I do hypnosis. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. And these are short hypnosis meditations, if you want to call it that, to do in between your sessions throughout your day on topics that are appealing to most therapists, like how to let go of the client's pain, how to not take on too much, and those kind of things. And and on social media, I'm at Therapist Sanctuary on different platforms. So
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to have other therapists join our community. It's a beautiful group of people and very honest and very welcoming.
It sounds beautiful.
Thanks so much for having me, Karen. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Same. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.